अथ चतुर्दश अध्याय Verse 1. Shri Bhagwan Uvacha Param Bhuya Pravakshami Nananam Granam Uttamam Yajnatma Munaye Sarve Param Siddhim Ito Gataha.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Again I shall declare to you this supreme wisdom, the best of all knowledge, knowing which all the sages have attained the supreme perfection."
Number 2. Idam Nanam Upashritya Mama Sadharmyam Agataha Sagepi no Pajayante Pralayena Gatanti cha.
By becoming fixed in this knowledge, one can attain to the transcendental nature like my own. Thus established, one is not born at the time of creation or disturbed at the time of dissolution.
Number 3. Mama yoni mahat brahma tasmin garbham dadami aham sambhava sarva bhutanam tato bhavati bharata.
The total materialistic substance called Brahman is the source of birth, and it is that Brahman that I impregnate, making possible the births of all living beings, O son of Bharat.
Number 4. Sarva yonesu kaunteya mrityaya sambhavanti ya tasam brahma mahadyoni aham bija pradapita.
It should be understood that all species of life, O son of Kunti, are made possible by birth in this material nature, and that I am the seed-giving father.
Number 5. Sattam rajastama iti trina prakriti sambhava nibadhananti mahabhavo dehi dehinam avayam.
Material nature consists of three modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance. When the eternal living entity comes in contact with nature, O mighty armed Arjun, he becomes conditioned by these modes.
Number 6. Tatra sattam nirmalatvat prakashakam anamayam sukha sangena vadnati gnana sangena chanaga.
O sinless one, the mode of goodness, being purer than the others, is illuminating, and it frees one from all sinful reactions. Those situated in that mode become conditioned by a sense of happiness and knowledge.
Number 7. Rajo ragatmakam viti trishna sanga samudbhavam tan nibadhanati kaunteya karma sangena dehinam.
The mode of passion is born of unlimited desires and longings, O son of Kunti. And because of this, the embodied living entity is bound to material fruitive actions.
Number 8. Tamas agnana jam vidi monam sarva dehina pramadalasya nidrabhish tan nibadhanati bharata.
O son of Bharat, know that the mode of darkness, born of ignorance, is the delusion of all embodied living entities. The results of this mode are madness, indolence, and sleep, which bind the conditioned soul.
Number 9. Sattam sukhe sanjayati raja karmani bharata nanam avritya tutamaha pramade sanjayati utta.
O son of Bharat, the mode of goodness conditions one to happiness, passion conditions one to fruitive action, and ignorance, covering one's knowledge, binds one to madness.
Number 10. Rajastamas shabhibhyuya sattvam bhavati bharata rajasattvam tamaschaiva tamasattvam rajas tatha.
Sometimes the mode of goodness becomes prominent, defeating the modes of passion and ignorance, O son of Bharat. Sometimes the mode of passion defeats goodness and ignorance, and at other times ignorance defeats goodness and passion. In this way, there is always competition for supremacy.
Number 11. सर्वद्वारेषु देहिस्मि प्रकाश उपजायते ज्ञानं यदा तदा विद्यात् विरुद्धं सत्त्वम् इति उक्त.
The manifestations of the mode of goodness can be experienced when all the gates of the body are illuminated by knowledge.
Number 12. Lobha pravati arambha karmanam asama prupspuha rajasi etani jayante hrude bharata sabha.
O chief of the Bharatas, when there is an increase in the mode of passion, the symptoms of great attachment, fruitive activity, intense endeavor, and uncontrollable desire and hankering develop.
Number 30. Aprakaso pravtischa pramado moha eva cha tamasi etani jayante hrude kurunandana.
When there is an increase in the mode of ignorance, O son of Kuru, darkness, inertia, madness, and illusion are manifested.
Number 14. Yada sattve praudetu pralayam yati dehabhrut tadotama vidam lokan amalan pratipadyate.
When one dies in the mode of goodness, he attains to the pure, higher planets of the great sages.
Number 15. Rajasi pralayam gatva karma sangisu jayate tatha pradinas tamasi muddha yonisu jayate.
When one dies in the mode of passion, he takes birth amongst those engaged in fruitive activities, and one dies in the mode of ignorance, he takes birth in the animal kingdom.
Number 16. कर्मण सुकृतस्याहु सात्विकं निर्मलं फलं रजसस्तु फलं दुःखम् अज्ञानं तमस फलम्.
The result of pious action is pure and is said to be in the mode of goodness, but action done in the mode of passion results in misery, and action performed in the mode of ignorance results in foolishness.
Number 17. सत्त्वा संजायते ज्ञानं रजसो लोभ एव च प्रमाद मोहो तमसो भवतो ज्ञानम् एव च.
From the mode of goodness, real knowledge develops. From the mode of passion, greed develops. And from the mode of ignorance, develop foolishness, madness, and illusion.
Number 18. ऊर्ध्वं गच्छन्ति सत्त्वस्था मध्ये तिष्ठन्ति राजसाः जगन्य गुणवृत्तसत्था गुणासुरतिस्था अधो गच्छन्ति तामसाः.
Those situated in the mode of goodness gradually go upwards to the higher planets. Those in the mode of passion live on the earthly planets, and those in the abominable mode of ignorance go down to the hellish worlds.
Number 19. ज्ञान्यं गुणेभ्यः कर्तारं यदा दृष्टानुपश्यति गुणेभ्यश्च परं वेत्ति मद्भावं सोऽधिगच्छति.
When one properly sees that in all activities no other performer is at work than these modes of nature, and he knows the Supreme Lord, who is transcendental to all these modes, he attains my spiritual nature.
Number 20. गुणानेतान् अतीत्य त्रीन् देहि देहे समुद्भवान् जन्म मृत्यु जरा दुःखे विमुक्तमृतम् अश्नुते.
When the embodied being is able to transcend these three modes associated with the material body, he can become free from birth, death, old age, and their distresses, and can enjoy nectar even in this life.
21. अर्जुन उवाच के लिङ्गे स्त्रीन् गुणान् एतान् अतीतो भवति प्रभो किम् आचर कथं चैतां त्रिया गुणान् अतिवर्तते.
Arjuna inquired, "O my dear Lord, by which symptoms is one who is transcendental to these three modes? What is his behavior? How does he transcend the modes of nature?"
22 to 25. Shri Bhagwan Uvacha Prakasam cha pravritim cha moham eva cha pandava na dvesti samprautani na nivartani kangsati udasina vada asino guneyo na vishalyate guna vartanta iti evam yo vatisthati nengate sama dukha sukha swastha samalostasma kanchana tulya priya priyo dhiras tulya nindatma samastutiha मानापमानयोस्तुल्य तुल्यो मित्रारि पकशयो सर्वारंभा परित्यागी गुणातीत स उच्यते.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O son of Pandu, who does not hate illumination, attachment, and delusion when they are present or long for them when they disappear, who is unwavering and undisturbed through all these reactions of the material qualities, remaining neutral and transcendental, knowing that the modes alone are active, who is situated in the self and regards alike happiness and distress, who looks upon a lump of earth, a stone, and a piece of gold with an equal eye, who is equal towards the desirable and the undesirable, who is steady, situated equally well in praise and blame, honor and dishonor, who treats alike both friend and enemy, and who has renounced all material activities. Such a person is said to have transcended the modes of nature.
Number 26. Mam choya vabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate saguna samatityatam brahma bhuyaya kalpate.
One who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman.
Number 27. Brahmano hi pratistaham amrutasya vyavasya cha sasvatasya cha dharmasya sukhasya kantikasya cha.
And I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman, which is immortal, imperishable, and eternal, and is the constitutional position of ultimate happiness. Hare Krishna.
Om Tatsat iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita Upanishastu Brahma Vidyayam Yog Shastra Shri Krishna Arjun Samvade Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga Nama Chaturdasha Adhyaya. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. That was fantastic. So nicely done, Krishna Mataji. Perfect pronunciation and extremely fast. Really well done. And Navneet Prabhu, very nicely recited the English. Thank you so much. Great. Let me just now share my other screen. Right, so we're continuing the reading of the 14th chapter. Chapter summary. Now, the three modes of material nature. Chapter summary so far. Text 1 to 4, the liberation and conditioning of living entities. 5 to 9, we cover the modes that bind the pure soul. And now we are in this new section, which is starting today, 10 to 13, which teaches us how to recognize which mode is prominent within us. It's a very, very important section, actually, this, because unless we know, just like unless you know what's wrong with us, we can't go around fixing it. So similarly, unless we understand what's happening with the modes and us, we can't do anything about it. So yes, the supremacy in Sutta Prabhu's what's it called, summary of the Gita in acronyms. He gives acronyms for each chapter. Does anybody know the acronym for the 14th chapter? He mentioned it the other day when he was in the class.
Trap.
Yes, well done, Vishali Mataji. Trap. And do you know what the TRAP stand for?
I've forgotten.
Okay, okay. Well, you've done well to remember the acronym. Yes, actually,
It will
I
come
when
back when you say it.
yeah. When Sudhapa Prabhu got with his book first came out many years ago, must be I don't know 10 years ago now. He actually did a session like I think it was 6 or 8 Saturdays or Sundays, I think morning, and we did that with him. And after that, I actually memorized all the acronyms for all the chapters, and that, believe you me, really helped me to understand the Gita properly. So TRAP, T stands for three modes. R stands for race for prominence. This is the section we're on now. A stands for action in the modes, which were the section that follows this. And P stands for Vishali Mataji. Has it come back to you yet?
No.
Okay, so P stands for pure life. Pure life meaning that you need to transcend all the modes and go to pure Suddha Sattva. So see, just by having that acronym, you can actually understand the whole chapter. It's so nice. So anybody who hasn't read his acronym book, you should definitely take it, because if you read it, the whole summary of the Gita is there. It's a very small book, so it's very easy. You can read it in a day, half a day perhaps.
Maybe you can put some every time we do a chapter, the acronyms.
Yeah, we can do that actually, because I've got a PDF version of that, so we could do that.
Brilliant. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay, we'll do that. That's good idea, Vishali Mataji. Okay, so moving on. Today's verse is 10. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 14, text 10. Rajastamascha Sattvam Bhavati Bharata. Raja Sattvam Tamaschaiva Tamasatvam Rajastatha. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Sometimes the mode of goodness becomes prominent, defeating the modes of passion and ignorance, O son of Bharata. Sometimes the mode of passion defeats goodness and ignorance, and at other times, ignorance defeats goodness and passion. In this way, there is always competition for supremacy. So from this verse and the following few verses, Krishna will explain about this race and also explain what manifests in those different, when those modes are prominent. So quite a nice section. So let's see the purport. Just one paragraph. Let us see who's there. I haven't got my list up, so let me just bring it up. And okay, let's see if Ashish Saxena. If you're there, if you can please unmute yourself and read the purport. Ashish Prabhu.
Sure, thank you. When the mode of passion is prominent, the modes of godness and ignorance are defeated. When the mode of godness is prominent, passion and ignorance are defeated. And when the mode of ignorance is prominent, passion and goodness are defeated. This competition is always going on. Therefore, one who is actually intent on advancing in Krishna consciousness has to transcend these three modes. The prominence of some certain mode of nature is manifested in one's dealings, in his activities, in eating, etc. All this will be explained in later chapters, but if one wants, he can develop by practice the mode of goodness and thus defeat the modes of ignorance and passion. One can similarly develop the mode of passion and defeat goodness and ignorance, or one can develop the mode of ignorance and defeat goodness and passion. Although there are these three modes of material nature, if one is determined, he can be blessed by the mode of goodness. And by transcending the mode of goodness, he can be situated in pure goodness, which is called the Vasudeva state, a state in which one can understand the signs of God by the manifestation of particular activities. It can be understood in what mode of nature one is situated. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ashish Prabhu. Thank you. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Om Ajnanati Mirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Charu Swaminiti Namine Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Pashate Veshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So this topic about the three modes of nature, it is so important. It's really important, as I was saying earlier, to understand it. And for that reason, Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita spends a lot of time. I believe on this topic, he's probably spent the most time. In terms of this whole chapter, the 14th chapter we're reading, it's all about the modes of nature. Then when we go to the 17th chapter, there's an extensive part covered with the modes of nature, with different activities. And then finally, with the 18th chapter, which is the summary, of course, of the Bhagavatam, in even more detail, the Lord explains again about the modes of nature. So it's really important, and it's good to understand that completely. So let's, as usual, let's look at our main points for the purport. So race or prominence, this is the main theme for this particular text, right? So you can see in this very famous picture where you've got the three modes represented by the three Matajis, and each one is tugging on those cords to pull the living entity her way. So this is what happens. This is what's happening to us every time, all the time. You know, whether we know it or not, it's just going on. So these three, these three gunas represent they are present. So they're present in the material energy, and our mind is made of. So our mind, body, everything is made of material energy, and therefore mind is also made up of the three modes. So we cannot be separated from the three modes whilst we're in the material world. And this race is happening all the time, constantly. So I think, as other speakers have mentioned before, it's not as if any one of us is in any one mode constantly. There's always a mixture. In the material world, even up to the mode of goodness, there's still some mixture. So there's never a pure mode. Nobody is purely in ignorance, nobody is purely in passion, and certainly nobody is purely in goodness. That is the way of material nature. So this change constantly is taking place. How is it going on? So our temperament oscillates amongst the three modes. So we know whichever mode is prominent, that's where our temperament will go, right? And the change is from moment to moment. 1 minute you may be in the mode of goodness, and suddenly something happens, something triggers, and you go from goodness to passion all the way down to ignorance. This can happen at a moment's notice. And during At lifetime, also, we can see that when we are, of course, when we are babies, babies are generally the mode of goodness. They're so pure. And then as they grow up, they get other influences, and then they're in school. When they're in school, they're probably still mostly in the mode of goodness in the younger days, because education, learning is all about goodness. When they get a little bit older, in the teens, then of course passion comes, and then probably passion is more predominant, and ignorance also starts creeping in like that. When you sort of get older, you start your business, or you go to work, get married, then of course passion takes over. So in that middle period, passion's all over us. Some goodness, lots of ignorance, of course, but passion is predominant. Then at later life, when we're the vanaprastha stage, then you're more focused on reading Krishna Katha, hopefully, and that way you're drifting again towards the mode of goodness. So that's how you and your life goes in this kind of cycle. The day also, as I think yesterday Vrindavan Chandra Prabhu was saying, that yes, morning time, early morning time is all goodness, and then the day goes into passion and ignorance at night. So that also, so everything is divided like that by the modes. How suddenly in a moment our mood can change. So you can give an example. For example, I'm sitting here, I'm upstairs in my study, and during the day, maybe I'm preparing for the class, so I'm reading the Bhagavad Gita, I'm looking at different references from different places. So I'm situated in a mode of goodness. Then if I go downstairs and the TV is on, because maybe my son's watching the TV, and if I happen to just take a glance and watch what's going on, passion takes over. Whatever's going on the TV is always very passionate. So passion takes over, right? And then again, you go into the mode of goodness and stuff like this. And somebody says something triggers, and you're in the mode of ignorance. You suddenly get angry for no reason, and you're in the mode of ignorance. My wife can tell you all about that. So this way, literally, everything is changing all the time. What are the contributing factors? Can anybody guess? Let's see, there's many, but I've just got 3 here, prominent ones.
Mind is the main thing.
Mind, Palika Mataji, yes, mind is I suppose you can call it also a factor, but mind is actually the medium through which all these other factors come in.
Yeah.
Right.
Is association one?
Association is also very important, yes.
The environment you are in.
Yes, exactly. There you go, Pali. Yeah, that's the one. So external environment, and that actually includes association as well. So the external environment, whether it's a place you're in, the town you're in, or the part of the town you're in, you're in a nice part of the town. You're mostly in goodness. Lots of greenery around you. You have lots of space around you. If you're living in the city in a crammed area, that's mode of passion or ignorance, like that. If you happen to be in a pub, that's of course mode of ignorance, like that. So the environment and who you are with, that's the external environment. That is one of the main factors. Then internal contemplation also. So you see how we let our mind think about various things. This is why, but here comes the mind. You need to make sure that our mind doesn't contemplate on useless things. Keep our mind. That's what they say when we talk about Krishna consciousness. They say you must be chanting 24 hours a day, Prabhupada says, right? Of course, you're sleeping, but people who are really Krishna conscious are chanting even when they're sleeping. So if you're chanting all the time, then the mind is controlled. So internal contemplation is very important. And the third thing is our sanskaras from the past lives, the tendencies. So these tendencies that come from the past life, that affect us quite a lot in terms of which modes we start under. And then the rest is up to us how we deal with it, right? In terms of external environment, I was just thinking about, for example, Ajamil. Ajamil's story, everybody knows. Ajamil was brought up in a nice Brahmana family. He had all the good qualities. Everything was right with him. And then just this external environment thing happened. He happened to see a low-class Shudra in a compromising situation with a prostitute, and his life went downhill, as you know. So just one thing can trigger like this, and we lose everything. So that's why we have to be very, very vigilant all the time about the modes. And people who, unless you've read Bhagavad Gita and understood it, you normally don't even think about the modes, do we? When I talk about myself before I came to Krishna consciousness, and I had vaguely heard about the modes, but I had no idea. I never ever thought about them much. So, okay, so symptoms of the prominence of particular guna. So in the next 3 verses, this will be given in more detail, but I just wanted to cover it very quickly here, just like a summary. So prominence of, whenever there's prominence of sattva, we will feel peaceful, content, generous, kind, helpful, serene, just to put some of them there, right? So this is how you are feeling in the mode of goodness. When there's a prominence of passion, rajas, then you are passionate, of course, you're agitated, ambitious, envious of others' success, and yearning for sense pleasures. This is the signs of passion, the mode of passion. Then ignorance, tama, you feel sleepy, laziness, hatred, anger, resentment, violence, doubt, procrastination, all those things. You don't feel like doing things. So that is the mode of passion. So you can see that you can pick any one of those. Out of the 3, I'm sure today all of us went through at least one from each. So that shows you that our day is mixed up. It's not in one pure sense. How it is mixed up is like this. You have, for example, the example of the 3 primary colors here, right? So 3, then here, this diagram shows 3 and 6, but actually 3 times 3 would be 9, because when they mix, it'll be 3 times 3, 9, 9 by 9, 81, and then 81 by 81, like that, right? So imagine there is unlimited combinations of the modes. So depending on which is more prominent in any combination like that, there are billions and billions of combinations. So that gives us our nature, doesn't it? Generally, that's what when we say somebody's nature is nice, somebody's nature is kind, somebody's nature is very sort of short-tempered. All that comes from the combinations. And all of us, although there's always a mixture, but there'll be one particular combination which will be prominent all the time as a mixture with us. And Prabhupada explains many times in his purports that is the reason why there are so many natures of different living entities. First of all, why there are so many living entities, and then why even within the living entities there are so many different kind of natures that each living entity has. That is to do directly with these modes, with this combination, and then it creates all the different entities and their moods and their natures. So a lot is explained by the modes. Prabhupada says, therefore, one who is actually intent on advancing in Krishna consciousness has to transcend these 3 modes. So we're saying the pure is beyond all these modes. We have to not just remain in goodness. Generally speaking, in the outside world, if people thought that they were in the mode of goodness, they'd be very, very happy. Because that way they are kind, they're generous, they're peaceful. All that is fine. Even if predominantly they always are in that mode. But it's still not enough, because you've still got to contend with coming back to the material world to either enjoy your good karma or pay for your bad karma. So this is why it's not advisable to stay in any of these modes, but to transcend. But of course, it's best to be in the mode of goodness, because from there we can launch ourselves to the Suddha Sattva. Without that, we can't do that. So very early on in the summary of the Bhagavad Gita, and in chapter 2, Krishna explains this to Arjuna. Trayi gunya vishaya veda. Nice. Every time I saw this, Trayi gunya vishaya, I just speak it out. Trayi gunya vishaya veda. Nishtriya gunyo bhavarjuna. Nirvandvo Nitya Sattvaso Nirogo Kshema Atmavan. The Vedas deal mainly, this is what Krishna is explaining to Arjuna, the Vedas deal mainly with the subject of the three modes of material nature. O Arjuna, become transcendental to these three modes, be free from all dualities and from all anxieties, for gain and safety, and be established in the self. Be established in the self, meaning that if you're self-realized, then you know you're the soul, you know this is not the right place for the soul, you know about the modes of nature, you also know about devotional service, you know the way out. In the purport of that particular verse, Prabhupada says, as long as the material body exists, there are actions and reactions in the material modes. One has to learn tolerance in the face of dualities, such as happiness and distress, or cold and warmth. And by tolerating such dualities, become free from the anxieties regarding gain and loss. The transcendental position, this transcendental position is achieved in full Krishna consciousness, when one is fully dependent on the goodwill of Krishna. Here's the secret. Let's depend on Krishna. Let's do what Krishna says. Depending on Krishna means doing what he says. And then he takes over the steering wheel of our life. Prabhupada continues, the prominence of some certain mode of nature is manifested in one's dealings, in his activities, in eating, etc. So chapter 17 will cover all this in detail. As I was saying earlier, 17 has a lot of modes covered there. And it'll cover, 17 will cover worship, how people's worship can be in the mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. So someone would say worship should always be in goodness, you would think, right? But no, even the modes are acting there. Because when somebody is worshiping without any personal motivation, just to please the Lord, that worship in goodness. If you're worshiping with some motive, which most of us do, we go and have a long shopping list to Radha Gokulananda. So if that's the case, then that's passion. And if you're worshiping for some other crazy thing, to succeed in some crime or succeed in cheating people or something, then that's ignorance. So like that, yeah. So everything. Foods, of course, we know. It'll explain in the 70th chapter, foods in mode of goodness, passion, ignorance. Sacrifices also. Once again, when we think the word sacrifice means somebody's in the goodness. No. Again, there's three modes working there. Austerity in the three modes. Austerity, I can give examples of austerity. Austerity, if you do austerity in terms of, doing vratas, ekadashis, of course, is beyond goodness. But, even just doing havans and generally doing things like that, waking up early, all that, that's austerity in the mode of goodness. But extra austerity in the passion, I would say, if you're waking up early to watch a cricket match. In my old days, I used to do that a lot. Match going on in India, I wake up at 5 in the morning, 4 in the morning, not for chanting, but to watch the match. So that's austerity, but that's austerity in passion. And austerity in the mode of ignorance is, people who they go in the midnight, they go to the cemetery, smashan, and they do some mantras and japas or some meli, some black magic, something like that. So that's austerity, but it's all different modes. Charity again in three modes. And in the 18th chapter, there's a lot more detail. Actually, 18th chapter is got the most detail on these modes. And there it'll talk about knowledge in goodness, passion, ignorance, action in mode of goodness, passion, ignorance, worker in the three modes, understanding in the three modes, determination in the three modes, and happiness in the three modes. So you can see there's a lot to hear over the next few months as we cover all these chapters, and as we go along, it'll get deeper and deeper, and it'll sink in more and more. This thing about the modes of nature. So often people ask, how do the modes work? What are the modes? It's like, because it's something you can't see. And most people don't even know about them, don't even feel them, don't even know they are there. So there are different definitions. And one I like to quote, and this is one I came across a little while ago, which explains it nicely, is subtle forces that shape the interaction between consciousness and matter, thereby inciting us to act in a particular way. So this is the best way to explain the modes. So then somebody could have an argument saying that if we are conditioned by the modes, we're not in control of our destiny, right? What would you say to that? Anybody?
But we have free will, Prabhuji.
Exactly, yes. But then they would say that, look, if the modes are there, even our free will work?
Yes, Prabhuji, because Prabhupada
says
says we can curb the mode of passion and ignorance if we
Correct,
practice.
exactly. And later on in this chapter, it'll be shown more properly. But there you go. Not correct, because the modes dictate a range of choices to us, right? But not what we choose. What we choose is up to us. So at any given circumstance, we will have choices in front of us, right? Shrutadharma Prabhu used to have a very, very nice line he used to always say in his speeches. Does anybody remember this about choices? He often said this very nicely. He used to say, life is not about winners and losers. Life is about choosers. That was a very famous line. So whichever mode we're in, that set of options will be in front of us. And then we have to make that choice with our free will. So this is where it is in our control. It's not as if the modes will not give you just one and say, just do this. No, the modes will give you options always, and we have to then choose using our free will. This is why our destiny is in our control. For example, the multiple choice exam, right? So when you have a multiple choice exam, it restricts the scope of the answers. You can't go and start giving wild answers. So you only got A, B, C, D or whatever. You can answer those. But the student chooses from the A, B, and C. That's his choice. And that particular answer is his option. So like that. So completely, nobody can say that because of, oh, I'm reading about the modes, that means, I give up. I'll have to just go along with the modes. But that is not like that. We have our choice to make, and we can gradually make our way out. So Prabhupada is saying, but if one wants, he can develop by practice the mode of goodness and thus defeat the mode of ignorance and passion. Of course, this is in the text, and the text talks about all three. That if you want passion, then you can defeat the other two. If you want ignorance, you can defeat the other two. But mostly, of course, all of us on this call, we don't want anything but goodness at least. So we have just chosen this one. And Prabhupada then continues, by transcending the mode of goodness, he can be situated in pure goodness, which is called the Vasudev state. Note here, Prabhu's Mataji, is not Vasudev, Vasudev's. There's no diacritic on A. That's the Vasudev. That's Vasudev state is also Suddha Sattva state, a state in which one can understand the science of God. So really, we're all trying to understand the science of God. But the more we are in the Suddha Sattva, the more we can understand it. We can partially understand it whilst we're in goodness, but real understanding will come when we are actually in the mode of goodness, mode of pure goodness rather. Prabhupada continues, by the manifestation of particular activities, it can be understood in what mode of nature one is situated. So we've more or less spoken about it a little bit. So yeah, one can understand by what we do. Unfortunately, the problem is most people are not thinking. They are just lost in the moment always, and never worry about anything else. Prabhupada says, not Prabhupada, there's a Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj in the 7th chapter speaks, when he's speaking to his classmates in text 31, sorry, in chapter 5, text 31, where he speaks this beautiful verse. He says, Nate vidu swarthagatim. Swartha Gatim, which means our after Swartha, which we in Gujarati, Hindi, we use the word Swarth quite a lot. Nate Vidu, Vidu means they don't know. Nate Vidu Swartha Gatim, they don't know their own, what you call it, their own, what is to be done for their own benefit. Most people are in this stage. Nate Vidu Swartha Gatim Hi Vishnu. The Vishnu is their Swartha Gatim. Destination, our destination should be Vishnu. And that is our nidhi, our goal, right? Durashaya ye bahir artham manina. The word durashaya bahir artham manina, which means bahir artham means that external happiness. We're always looking for these external things. We're looking for happiness everywhere outside. Durashaya bahir artham manina. Andha yatha ande rupaniya manas. Why they do that? Because like blind people, they're just following others. Because the whole world is so materialistic. In fact, our whole education system is so materialistic. So people just keep blind following the blind. Because everybody is doing this, everybody is buying new cars, I'm going to buy a new car. Everybody's moving into this good area, I need to buy a house in this area. So we're just following like blind. Andayatha, and then Andayatha upaniya manas. Te pishatantyam urudhamni baddha. He says they don't realize that they are tied. Te pishat trantyam urudhamni. Uru means rope. Damni means rope, right? Uru damni. So you're tied with these three ropes. Ropes that referring to the modes here, right? They don't know, they don't even realize that they're tied with these three ropes. And because they don't realize that they're tied with these ropes, they are just moving with the material world, just going with the flow and wasting their life. So the understanding that Krishna gives us about the modes help us to recognize when a particular mode starts appearing in our consciousness and becoming prominent. So you see, now we know this, we will consciously know when something is prominent in our heads, and we will start taking action. Right? This gives us the opportunity to rectify situation. If you're ignorant about it, you can't do anything. You will just go from bad to worse. But because we understand this, right, it gives us a chance to do something about it. So unfavorable action that our nature dictates is not unavoidable, right? Sometimes our nature, because of what we're conditioned with, we will be sort of almost inclined to do certain things. But here we're saying it's not unavoidable because we can take action. How? When we become spiritually aware of our self-interest, Swasa Gatim here, Vishnu, we were speaking is now self-interest, we can avoid the bad action. The more we connect with Krishna through loving devotion, the more we can resist the dominance of the lower modes, right? It's very, very easy to flow down towards the lower modes. It's difficult to come uphill to the good modes. But if we are aware of it, we can take actions. Just like in a war, for example, if you are aware of the enemy's strategies, you could then plan and plan to win the war because you are aware. Similarly, if you're aware of what's going on with us, we will be able to get ourselves out of the situations and get better. So devotees, I will end here. And I will invite any questions, realizations, corrections.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Yes, Puja Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Yes, what is could be the most that the reason that we have forgotten about our relationship with Krishna?
My volume was very low. Just can you repeat that, please, again?
Yeah, we have forgotten our relationship with Krishna. Is it partly could to be due to the modes of the nature, or there could be some other reason, please?
Yeah, thank you for raising the Puja Mataji. We started that. The first reason where we have actually forgotten our relationship with Krishna is because we decided on our own when we were there somewhere in the spiritual world that we want to enjoy. That was the beginning of it. And as a result of that, Krishna puts us where we are now, right? So then the modes come in. But first, it was our decision to move from there. Why and how, this is a question that will never be answered unless we go back there.
Okay.
Does that make sense, Meera Mataji?
Puja Mataji, yes, thank you.
Puja Mataji, yes, thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Bhagavati Mataji.
It's Hema Mataji. We're all together.
I'm looking at different names are coming up here. Bhagavati Mataji
I
also
know.
just unmuted. Maybe she was about to say something.
We're watching together. So yeah.
And I'm
Hare
here.
Krishna.
If your videos were on, I would not make these mistakes.
Sorry, Prabhuji.
No problem.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So the thing about the internal contemplation and particularly the environment,
Mhm.
if there are obvious things, then, and we know that the modes are impacting on us, but if there are subtle things like hunger, illness, hormonal imbalances that get us into passion or actually in the mode of ignorance even, how do we then recognize it and deal with it? Especially women's hormonal imbalances and all that has a huge impact on whether you're passionate or in the mode of ignorance. So how does one then recognize and deal with it?
Yeah, it's a very, very good question. I'm probably not the right person to answer about the woman issues.
No, generally, diabetes, say low
yes,
sugar levels, all that affect people, isn't it?
Yes, of course. By the way, Hema Mataji, your name on the screen does say Bhagavati Mataji. You know that?
Yeah,
Did you
we're
know?
both together. We're both together.
Okay. All right. Okay, that's why. Okay, fair enough. So, right. What I would say to that is that yes, we have a certain amount of suffering, bodily suffering, whether you call this because of hormones, because of sugar levels and all that, right? We have certain amount of sufferings that we have to go through. That is in our karma, and the best way is to understand it like that and tolerate it. Really, Krishna says, first instruction to him is please tolerate these things. So we need to just tolerate them. But then you see, when you understand it from this situation that, okay, I'm having to go through this, but because I understand that, yes, it's something that I need to just tolerate, I don't need to be depressed about it. It will go. As the summer and winter seasons come and go, these things also will come and go. This way, it helps us to deal with it a bit more maturely and not drag us down, not get our mood down so much. Yes,
it's about recognizing it.
Recognizing it and knowing that it is not permanent, and knowing that I'm working towards at least getting out of the major situations of the modes affecting me. The body, as long as we've got a human body, a part and parcel of that is the aches and pains and things that we have suffered. That is something that we need to just deal with.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The cold answer, but sorry that, yeah.
No, thank you. Thank you, clarity.
Anybody else?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you for the lovely class. Very, very insightful. My question is, like when we are younger, when we are under our parents, and if we are given, like every family has kind of different dietary kind of, we are given food by our parents, we are taken to places by our parents, so we are completely dependent. So when does karma start? Like we don't choose at that time because our parents are giving everything. So we are just going, we are not thinking, okay, is this right for me? Is this wrong? So we are not choosing that time unless we become adult and we are given the responsibility of choosing, So when does karma start? So I'm just thinking like karmic reaction.
That's a very, very good question, actually. Karma, the way it is, whenever you got the human body, karma starts acting straight away. Because whether you're doing some action knowingly or unknowingly, the reaction will be there. Prabhupada often gives the example of fire. if there is like a fireplace in our living room, a child does not know that by getting close to it, I'm going to get burned. But the fact that he doesn't know, it doesn't mean that fire will not do its duty. Fire's nature is to produce heat. So it will produce heat whether the child knows about it or not. So similarly, children also begin to incur karma from the beginning. But because children are children, they very rarely commit sins at that stage, right? I say rarely. When they're babies, of course, they don't, because everything is done for them. They're not doing anything themselves. When they're toddlers, for example, now a toddler may be crawling on his all fours, and he may see, for example, an ant on the carpet, right? And he may take his finger and stub it, right? So that, although he's doing it in ignorance, he is getting karma. So there's no escaping karma once you're in a human body. The only things animals, of course, apart from the human body, human yoni, all the other yonis, they don't have that system of karma because they don't have the faculty to decide right or wrong. But in the human body, you have. So even when the child does that, yes, he gets the karma, but it's measured, right? If I killed that ant, I would get a lot bigger dose of karma than the child would get, right? Because he's doing it, he's going to get some karma, but because he's doing it in ignorance, the Lord realizes, so it gives him a little bit less karma, right? But yes, karma does start.
Okay, so like I was thinking about the choosing the modes. Like Prabhupada says that if we choose to act in mode of goodness, then passion and ignorance will be subdued. So I was thinking, like, if we like obviously now we have the knowledge, we know what to do. But before we had the knowledge, if we don't have the knowledge and we are under our parents or something, so we are just acting whatever modes is coming to us. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, no, that is true. That is true.
We don't
Yeah,
that time we are not even choosing, we are just going with the flow, kind of.
exactly. So at that stage, you're right. We're just going with the flow. But when you come to the stage of understanding, then even as a child, people will, for example, there's this very famous video that went around a little while ago where this little girl, very little girl, I think American girl, and she's saying to her mom, I'm not going to eat meat from now. You remember that? Did anybody remember that?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Very cute video, right? And mom
Yeah,
keeps
yeah.
asking why, and she gives reasons about it, right? And
Mm,
one she gives,
very powerful, yeah.
he says, I don't think it's very nice for them, to kill them like that. So, so you see, at that age, that child is already making the choice, right? She's making a choice despite what her mother wanted to give her meat, but she decided at the time that no, that's not right. So you can choose early on.
Mm.
Yeah.
Prabhuji.
I mean, yeah. In certain cultures, yes, but in certain cultures, you're only allowed to obey the elders and parents. You're not allowed to, disobey them, or kind of, in Western culture, it's more of, you choose your choice. The Indian culture, it's more of obeying the parents, obeying the elders, and kind of things. I was just thinking that.
That is true.
Thank
Yes.
you, Prabhuji.
Yes, you're right, Subharupa Mataji. So in terms of Indian parents, if that was the situation, then of course their choices would come a little bit later.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, thank you very much, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Jolly Mataji.
Isn't it, karma never really starts anywhere. It comes with you if you in this material world, surely. You carry it with you, whatever age. From birth, I should say. So the child, if you watch the child, every child is different. So, even their clothes they choose, and it depends on the age, obviously not. But the karma is with you forever, isn't it?
Right. So the
It could be good. It could be good or bad karma, but it's all the modes get entangled into your free will is in your doing.
Correct.
So sorry.
You're completely correct that the karma, that's why you've got a certain kind of body, that's why you've got a certain kind of family.
That's right.
Sometimes children at the age of 4, 5, 6 months old, they start developing diseases, nasty diseases. So all that is to do with karma. The question here was that when do we start incurring karma by our own free will? So that is what we were discussing earlier. But yes, karma is there all the time with you.
Well, I suppose when you when you start doing things independently, you will add karma to your character.
Exactly right. Exactly
Yeah.
right. Yeah. Thank you, Jyoti Mataji.
Mukunda Hari Prabhu.
Yes, Krishnavani Mataji.
Prabhuji, I don't know if I heard that, up to the age of 5, children, like the parents take children's karma. So I don't know where that fits.
I personally, I haven't heard that. It may be true. So I know you read quite a lot.
I have
But
it so many times. So that's what I was thinking, that up
yeah.
to 5 children are very innocent and
Mhm.
parents karmas.
Yes.
And yeah, after 5, they start taking karmas, or I don't know, after certain teenage
Yes.
age.
So like I say, I haven't heard that myself, Mataji. But the way I have sort of Prabhupada explains it is just like the child when he goes to the fire, it's going to burn no matter what.
Yeah, that I
Stuff like that. But like perhaps what you're saying is right, because up to 5, even if that child has killed the ant, maybe that is not going to be a big problem because that child is doing it in before she's 5 years old and not before she can discern what is right and wrong. But thank you for sharing that.
Hare Krishna, Hare Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Palika Mataji.
Hare Krishna. I just had a thought through the conversation. What I understand, it does everything to do with the karma, because some children are born in a Vaishnava family, so from the beginning they have their everything is set up for them. The parents guide them the right way. But if you are not born in the Vaishnava family, or in a family where you would like to, is all coming from the previous life. So that way we don't have any choice when you are young. I mean, that Vaishnava family from the beginning, they will not eat meat, they will do everything. So it's all coming from the previous life. The parents will be giving us the right direction to go to Krishna. But then if I haven't had the opportunity the previous life, then I would come to the family. Then you have no choice. You just follow what your parents are guiding you to. This is what my understanding. So it's all predestined where you are coming and how you are getting affected. I mean, by Krishna's mercy, of course, if you have done something, you will come to Krishna conscious eventually.
Sure. So you're right, Palika Mataji. So the souls are sent to certain wombs and destinations, not by chance. It's all by design.
Yeah.
But even in the Vaishnava family, I'll just make one comment, is that yes, in the beginning, the children will do what the parents want them to do. But we also know of many, many cases when they have started to make their own decisions, they've gone the other way. So there you go. See, it does happen that they will start making their own choices there too.
Yes.
So it works.
And every child, they're different. We're individuals. So you watch a child when they're growing up. Some, they don't always follow their parents, even from young, little babies, toddlers. So I think it's because they're in our care, and we are they're dependent on us. So most of their behavior looks like they've got no choice, or they haven't got a personality, or they haven't got karma. But I think we come with our karma, and I suppose you pursue them as you or not as you grow up.
That is true. That is true. There's some comments. Thank you, Jyoti Mataji. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Some comments on the chat here, so I'm going to just go through them. So first of all, Deepa Goringa Mataji, thank you for your encouragement, Mataji. Thank you so much. You're always so kind to me. Then this is Natalie. She's saying, was there some personality who was sanctioned by Yamraj to be stabbed to hell because in childhood he killed an ant? Yes, and he cursed Yamraj. Yes, this was actually this was Mundaka Muni. He cursed Yamraj. He cursed Yamraj because Yamraj gave him the punishment, and he cursed Yamraj, and Yamraj then took birth as Vidura. So that is that story about that child, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Manduka Muni, that's right. And she's also, look at that. She's so fast. She's also put the reference Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, 13th chapter, text 1. So that's where it is. Thank you, Tila Goranga Mataji. Super fast. Yeah. So yes, and in fact, before I answered, I'm not look. The messages were coming later on, and she's already got that answer. Thank you. Right, and somebody else is saying, okay. And also, what if you work in an ordinary school as a teacher, and for lunch menus you have to give the children the options of meat, food, as this is what parents sanction for the children. Do you incur karma? If you try to start a vegetarian movement, then probably wouldn't stay in in the job so long. So Natalie, Mataji, yes. So this is a big problem, of course, and it's a very difficult one, I must tell you, because if you're working, of course, if you had a choice, for example, if somebody offered a job to us in McDonald's, we can easily turn it down because they know it's directly tied to mode of ignorance. But when you're in a school, which is mostly tied to mode of goodness, you take on a job, but then part of your job is to also serve meals. And then those meals are non-vegetarian. This is a gray area. This is a gray area. Like you say, you can't do much about it. You can't leave the job because, of course, that's, it's a good job or whatever. But I'm afraid we do incur karma, because it is said that when in the Bhagavatam, I forget where it was, I think in the fourth canto somewhere, it actually lists the number of people who are included in the sin. So it's the number one is a person who orders to kill that animal. Number two, the person who kills that animal. Number three, the person who buys or sells the meat. The person who cooks it. The person who serves it. And of course, the person who consumes it. There's one more somewhere there, about 7. So these are all in the chain, right? And unfortunately, yes, we have that karma hanging over us when we're doing it. But the point is, whilst we're in that work, we can't do much about it, and because serving is very much lower down the chain, so we can perhaps hope that Krishna sees that we're doing, and then we can counterbalance that by this just apologizing to Krishna and begging forgiveness for what's happening, and doing your sadhana will counterbalance these things, because these things are not, you can't do your sadhana and purposely commit things, but when it's part of your job, what are you going to do? This applies to everybody who works in a supermarket, for example, right? How many Indians work in supermarket? How many devotees have to work in supermarkets? And they're handling meat. Maybe they may not directly handle it, but they are in and around all the time there. So yeah, a difficult question. Yes, I hope that helps. I hope I didn't make it more depressing for you, Mataji. And then there's Santosh Mataji. Thank you so much for your encouragement. Hema Mataji is saying, I've also heard the children are not expected to do Ekadashi until 5. Yeah, that is true. Not to do until 5. That's correct. That I've heard. So maybe that ties in with what Krishnavadi Mataji was saying as well. Could be well true. I'm not 100% sure for that. But yeah, that's the end of the comments, and it's all coming almost at 9 o'clock. So devotees, thank you so much for tolerating me again. Thank you so much for making time every day to come to these classes. Really, really appreciate it, because it gives, especially me, it purifies my speech and gives me a chance to do some deep study to prepare for the class. So thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Thank
Hare
you,
Krishna,
Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank
Hare
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna to everybody as
Hare
well.
Krishna. Thank you.
Krishna Prabhu, thank you. Hari Hari.
Krishna
Prabhuji.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna, Prabhuji.
Lila Purushottam Prabhu is there.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Oh, Mukunda, thank you very much. Jai.
So nice to see you, Prabhu.
Yeah, it's very inspiring. Thank you. I'm always learning something from your classes, from the Divyanand Prabhu.
All I'm doing is repeating whatever I'm reading. There's nothing is mine. So you got to thank Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj for that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes. I'm so fortunate that you are sparing your precious time and keeping us on the track. Thank you very much.
No, no, I'm just doing my little bit, but everybody else is there. All the whole thing, the whole of this chat group wouldn't work without all of you. So thank you so much.
That's true in one sense, but end of the day, it's Guru and Gauranga's mercy. Thank you very much.
Totally.
Yeah, look forward to seeing you at the Manor soon.
Yes, let's hope that this thing gets better. It's getting worse right now, but let's hope it gets better soon.
Yeah.
And we can see it.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Hare Krishna, everybody.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Class bહુ fine હોય પ્રભુ સાચે so much enlightening.
Vishali, you're so kind. You are so learned yourself.
તમે એટલો fine બોલો કે બધું ઉતરી જાય છે.
Thank you so much. You're so kind.
તમારો ફોટો તો બતાવો.
કોને કહે છે?
તમને કહું છું.
ઓ મને કે તું મને ઓળખે છે.
Yeah, we are in the same class in Bhakti Vai, but that's what I'm saying.
મને ઓળખે છે. આપણે નોર્થમાં બાઉન્સ સ્ટ્રીટમાં આપણે સાથે હતા. યાદ આવી.
By the name, I was wondering who is Vishalini Devi. Yeah, I know we used to, North London માં સાથે. માં ભેગા થતા હતા ને
it was really nice. કેમ છો તમે?
બસ જો ભગવાનની દયા ગુરુ મહારાજ.
બસ એ જ ને. Hare Krishna.
So nice.
So nice to see you.
Are we keeping well?
Yes, we are keeping very well at the moment. We are keeping safe.
Okay.
અમારી એરિયામાં બહુ છે હમણાં.
No, everywhere. આખા દેશમાં છે actually.
Yeah, so true.
અમારે વેમ્બલી એરિયામાં tier 4 છે.
અમારું એ છે.
But actually, all the areas around us are bad at the moment.
Yes, yes. London is particularly bad આ વખત.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, that shows the end of the day we depend on
the vaccination yet?
It's all in Krishna's hands, right?
Has anybody in the group had any vaccinations yet? No?
No, not yet.
Yes.
You had yours?
Yeah, about 4 days back.
Oh, okay. Wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Leeladhar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Leela Purushottam Prabhu. Your name is Leeladhar. You got your kami name on there. So.
Yeah, Leela Pura.
Guru Maharaj is so merciful,
Yeah. Okay.
So I don't deserve it, but he's been so kind. Yeah, there are no severe side effects after this so far. Touch wood.
Touch wood. And
Krishna's mercy. It's something more like, having a flu jab.
Okay.
Flu vaccination, yeah. So,
પાછું લેવાનું છે second dose?
2 week પછી હોય છે, પણ હમણાં ક્રિસમસનો ટાઈમ છે ને, એટલે 3 week લાગશે.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how many doses are there? 3, 2 or just
2?
Just
2 doses. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good to know it started properly.
Yeah. So
I was looking at there's a calculator online where you can put down your age and to tell you when you'll get yours.
Yeah.
Looking at about February, March.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, the government wants to vaccinate everyone. They are trying their best.
Yes, yes.
They're probably doing wholesale in stadiums and schools and leisure centers, etc. They're doing the best.
Necessary, very necessary.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Okay, I'll end the meeting now. See you next week. Hare Krishna.
Next week.
Hare Bol.